also offer mentorship, which is something NCB is passionate about.
All right, and time to just take a look at what's on the dailies this morning. I'm going to begin with the Daily Nation here, but we'll take a look also at the Standard in a moment, and Taifa Leo as well. But this is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Storm over constituency boundaries. Race against time. Review of borders has stalled because of a dysfunctional electoral commission. A dispute over a secret crucial document and supremacy wars between rival political formations. And look, I'm not alone in studio. With me in studio just to have this conversation and help us take a look at, take us through the newspaper this morning. Godfrey Osotsi, Senator of Vihiga County. Very good morning. Karibu sana. We also do have Hilary Sigei, Senator Bomet County. Very good morning, Senator. Karibu. And Beatrice Elachi, Dagoretti North, Member of Parliament. A very good morning, Beatrice. This is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Of course, storm over what is likely now the biggest thing right after the election, which is on the issue of the constituency boundaries. And what we're having, you know, a number of issues here. It's stalled because there's already a dispute over a secret crucial document, a dysfunctional electoral commission, and also this supremacy wars between these two political formations in the country with regard to the constitution of this new commission. Mheshimiwa Godfrey, what are we likely to see in the next couple of days? Are we likely to get over this issue and get to take a look at this issue of the boundaries? Remember, this was actually supposed to happen right before the election, but it was postponed.
Well, boundary review is one of those very key functions of the IEBC. Right. And as you are aware, IEBC is not constituted yet. Right. We have Chebukati and the team who left office, and then we have those commissioners who resigned, and then we have the Cherera process which came to an end just the other day. So really, I think the first task now is to constitute IEBC. But as you are aware, there is contestation on the issue of constituting IEBC. Right. Because Azimio coalition is raising concerns about the whole process of constituting IEBC. Right. And they have said that they will not participate in the process until there is an all-inclusive process. Right. So really that is a major task, even before we start talking about boundary review. But the law says that boundary review has to be done between 8 to 12 years. So we have to do a boundary review before the next election as per the constitution. But we still do have some time. We have some time. So we must first deal with the first issue. We have some time, but the earlier the better, because the process of reviewing the boundaries, it's not an easy one. There are a lot of contestations, people going to court, a lot of dispute resolution required. So it is not a process that has to be rushed. It is a process that needs time. All right. So we hope that an agreeable IEBC will be constituted in time so that they can now embark on the process of boundary review. Senator Sigei, so this issue is certainly at the heart of, remember, the one man, one shilling vote campaign, particularly by leaders from the populous regions, as they say. In the Daily Nation, they say those leaders argue that their vote-rich areas are underrepresented in Parliament. They claim that this undermines allocations to the regions, funds that ideally should be spent on grassroots development, including, you know, school bursaries and all. So this is quite an important issue right now that we should be looking at as a country, right?
Of course, yes, it is. And just to start off in terms of the process, remember that statement you've just read is very key, because the reason as to why we need to have representation going down to the grassroots is to facilitate service delivery to the lowest level, that is to that lowest voter in that village. But then again, there is a procedure, there is a process which we must follow. And IEBC is mandated under the Constitution, Article 89, to undertake the boundary review. And as my colleague has said, we still have time to do it, because the only caveat that the law has placed on the boundary review is that it cannot be done 1 year within an election period.
Right.
So remember, we've just come out of an election period. We have got over 4 years plus to do the same, such that however we could be having the concerns that we need to do it, we have time to prepare the IEBC that is yet to be constituted. 3 weeks ago, so we passed the law on selection panel to the IEBC, and the respective stakeholders have begun nominating their representation. I think the political parties, the liaison committee, the inter-religious groups have already sent out their proposed personnel to
But you have the
selection
new
panel.
coalition who say they will not be party to that.
Yes, I've just heard that from my colleague, by the way. You know,
But they did make that pronouncement publicly
They made the
last
pronouncement.
week. What does that mean then for this process?
Remember, the law has given who to nominate. We have the Public Service Commission, we have the Parliamentary Service Commission, we have the Political Parties Liaison Committee, and the inter-religious groups. There is nowhere in that law that says Kenya Kwanza must nominate or Azimio must nominate its representation. Right? LSK is supposed to be, they have already picked their candidate. It's supposed to be impartial. So if Azimio were to say they do not want to nominate, of course they will not nominate anyway, because the law doesn't give them a slot. The entities which have been given that responsibility have already taken up the responsibility. Their participation would probably be if they want to now protest against any name that will have been forwarded by those stakeholder groups, which the law gives them the slots to nominate their representatives. But let's wait and see, because we're following a process that has already been picked by the law that is already in place. They didn't challenge the law. They had a window to do it. We passed it in the Senate. It had already been passed in the National Assembly. And so that is a process that has begun. It's a process that we will definitely wish to progress, because we would want to have this entity. As we speak right now, there are a number of petitions, election petitions, that emanated from the general election we had in August. A number of them, I'm sure, are almost at the tail end. Judgments will probably be pronounced. And there is a possibility that 1 or 2 of the courts or the matters which are before the courts will require a by-election. We need the IEBC to be in place for purposes of declaration and for purposes of conducting the by-election. That is what exactly is going to happen, and that is why we need this body to just pick up and begin to do its work, including now getting down to processing a possible boundary review, which is required, because the last time this was done, there has been a lot of population growth, and we need representation all the way to the village level, so that people can get the services, including now on the CD development, which of course is a subject that we are still debating now on the basis of the judgment of the Supreme Court again. But it is something that we must drive to make sure that we serve our people at the lowest level in all the services that are required.
Let's hear from Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi. Look, Senator Sige has spoken about a lot of things, including the issue of why Azimio is disapproving the composition of the IEBC Commission. But also with regard to this issue in terms of the constituency boundaries, yesterday we did have the Azimio la Umoja, the National Assembly Minority Leader, in fact, Opiyo Wandayi, speaking to the nation and saying that Kenyans have been kept in the dark with regard to the goings-on at the IEBC concerning the boundaries review. He said, and I quote, "We had demanded that the Chebukati team should not commence the exercise since their term was coming to an end. Our position still remains that such a sensitive exercise should only be undertaken by a fully independent commission which enjoys the confidence of all political formations." But at this point, Azimio says they will not be party to the formation of a new commission if it's not open, if there's still some things that are not been resolved. Where does that leave us in terms of finishing up this process or even beginning this process?
Well, in terms of beginning, you see, just the way Senator has said, you see, they will ride on that. And they will continue saying the process went into Parliament, it passed, and all that. But let me be let me get out of the politics.
Right.
Now we come on the table and ask ourselves, this is our country, Kenya. If there's anything that is very emotive in our country, is something called boundaries.
Right.
And so that the process does not reach a point, and I will want to tell my senator that, you know, right now we are just talking. When that time comes is when you'll realize the problem is not about Azimio. The problem is about the tribes in Kenya. Mm-hmm. They won't care whether they were in Azimio, whether they were in Kenya Kwanza. What they will want is what their tribes will be thinking, and that time you will be so shocked how Kenya again can go to another different level. If we do not manage now, if we are not able to say in a bipartisan, we can achieve this goal in a bipartisan way. But if we refuse that and continue hitting on our political parties, we are going to do a bad disservice to our country, Kenya. And when it comes to that time, is when you'll realize. That time, you might even find on the Azimio side, those who want a Maseno, who believe Maseno used to be in their county and now will be in conflict with each other. They are Azimio. You go to Kenya Kwanza, you'll find yourself with a lot of challenges in your boundaries in terms of Transmara. You come to this side, you come to Kuria with Migori, you can imagine. And they are waiting. And some are in other places in the pastoral areas, they are waiting. So for me, I would plead that let us not start on a wrong foot in terms of even the first process, because where we are going is more difficult than what we are talking about. So can we just try and agree on a bipartisan? And when we talk of bipartisan, it's nothing to do with handshakes or whatever. No, it is now when everyone puts the country forward than your interest, than your belief, and all that. So I want to plead on this one, all of us, politicians, government, this is a process. If indeed we want to go and touch boundaries and remove some, and if we are honest, are we going to be able to remove the constituencies that were protected? Because they don't have the numbers. While me, I'm being choked by numbers, them, they don't have numbers. That's why in their bursary they can play around. Yet I have a population that is wondering, that needs to have representation that can be felt.
Okay.
So those are some, and that is why I'm saying nobody will care about parties. We are now going to care about the interests of each constituency.
Right.
Yes.
So this will be quite something we must, you know, be very keen on as well.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to take a look at a couple of other stories here in the Daily Nation because it will be forming the basis of our conversation this morning. Raila accuses Ruto of tribalism in state jobs. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party leader Raila Odinga warning that the country risks becoming ethnically balkanized due to the skewed public appointments made by President William Ruto's administration. Odinga accusing President Ruto and his deputy of being biased against communities that opposed their bid while handing their own people the lion's share of state positions and resources. I'm also going to take a look at that report that was filed earlier on by one of our reporters. Meanwhile, blow to Azimio as tribunal suspends Senate changes. Another big thing here. You have some sort of confusion yesterday. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition suffering a major setback in its bid to change its leadership in the Senate after the political parties tribunal, disputes tribunal temporarily stopped communication of the proposed changes. The tribunal stopping the Senate Speaker from communicating the removal of Minority Whip Fatuma Dulo pending the hearing and determination of a petition filed before it by the Isiolo senator, which means now the changes cannot be communicated before the 28th of February, where further directions will be given. Remember, the Narok senator was the one that was fronted to take over that particular position. Senator Osotsi, what does this mean for the Azimio team? Because look, you have on one hand, you know, trying to de-whip Fatuma Dulo because of her dalliance with the Kenya Kwanza administration, and you know, the Senate Speaker saying, wait, you know, the political parties tribunal, already this matter is before it, we have to wait for that ruling first. where does that leave the Azimio team and their business in the House, in the Senate?
Well, I think it's very unfortunate for Senate to get to this level. You know, Senate has been known to be a house of reason and a house that has displayed maturity over time. But I am very unhappy with what is happening in the Senate, because Senate now is degenerating into a chaotic house.
How so?
A house that does not observe the rules, a house that is led by incompetent speaker. And I don't fear to say this. I will say it because I have been a legislator in the National Assembly. And when I was in the National Assembly, I used to like what was happening in the Senate. But I'm in a situation where I'm finding National Assembly to be better in terms of managing the House than what is happening in the Senate. The case in point is this decision. Really, the standing orders are very clear on what happens when a party wants to make changes. It says the Speaker communicates. So the Speaker does not make a ruling. The Speaker's work is to basically communicate what the party wants. And the precedents have been set. You remember with the removal of the current Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, it was the same. It was a simple communication by the Speaker. There was no ruling, there was no debate, the Speaker just communicated.
But if I do remember that ruling, when it was being made, the Senate had not lodged a complaint with the PPTD.
No, listen, I'll come to that. We had the situation of removal of Duale as a majority leader in the National Assembly. Again, it was just a simple communication. We had the same situation with the removal of Kangata and many others. It was communication. And even if you go to the hand side, it's very clear. The Speaker said that he does not interfere with political party matters. His work is to communicate what the party wants. Now, we are in a situation whereby when the matter came up, the Speaker was just to communicate. And the Speaker decided to delay the communication. And even engaged...
Pending a ruling from the political party.
No. Just wait. He delayed the communication. When we demanded for the communication, he said he's going to do it expeditiously. He never did that. Instead, he engaged this senator, Fatuma Dulo, in scheming against her retaining that position. We have information that the Speaker was part of the process of going to court, so that to delay the ruling, the communication further. Now, she got a reprieve from the tribunal. But I want to say, the tribunal cannot inject Parliament. We are setting a very wrong precedent for Parliament in this country. It means Parliament will not be able to do its work. Because we have had cases where, in the past, where even Senate has been injected to stop impeachment of a governor. But Senate has ignored that and went ahead and made a decision. Because we must respect the rule of separation of powers between the executive and the legislature. So what happened yesterday is very unfortunate, is a drawback, and that's why I'm saying I am not, individually, I am not happy with what is happening in the Senate. It is very unfortunate, and the Speaker is clearly showing open bias. And we are doing something about it. You'll be hearing it in the coming days about what we are going to do about it. But I can tell you from my experience in matters political parties, it is going to be very difficult for Fatuma Dulo to navigate this new war front because we know what the courts are going to say. Tribunal may have given us some very brief reprieve, but we will eventually get things done the way we want it done.
Okay.
And you cannot insist on leading people who don't want you to lead them. We have majority of the senators, Azimio, are saying, no, you cannot be our leader. And Senator Dulo cannot insist on leading, especially in the position of a whip, the people who are saying you cannot whip us. It's going to be very difficult for her.
All right.
Legally, she may survive, but politically, it's going to be very difficult for her to operate. So I think the Speaker has to do the right thing, which is in the standing orders, which is our law, and stop all these shenanigans around trying to interfere with the decision of the minority.
All right. Look, I want to give Senator Sigei that opportunity to respond. You know, you talked about bias, open bias by the Senate Speaker, but we have to take a very short break. This is M Live. You're watching M Live. The hashtag we're using this morning is M Live NTV. At NTV Kenya, Zainab Ismail, talk to us when we're back. We'll continue with this conversation and get to